Thank you. I'm here because as a telecenter network, the work we do is relevant for the local telecentres. The content that we have may be useful to them in terms of the work they do, but is also relevant to the global, for global expression in terms of letting the world know what the local telecentres are doing elsewhere.
You were over there.
With SatNet, we linked up with the Connect Africa, and we are doing a project, a pilot project, with the appropriate technology and innovative energy sources, trying to provide communication in the hard-to-reach areas, deep rural areas. So that would be from local application to global. Should the model be successful, it could be rolled out beyond the rural area where we are into the entire nation and beyond the boundaries of our country.
And can you give me an example of a piece of content that would travel from local to the national?
For instance, in the game parks, the local people that are living in the game management area, the mobile providers are not in there. They are completely isolated. The digital divide is so wide. They feel if you can get the energy sources correct, they could access the internet, for instance. So they're keen to come on board if you can just make it affordable to them.
That was a good and difficult question. I mean, it's a good answer, it's a difficult question. Because actually, that didn't sound to me like content travelling from local to global. That sounded to me like a need being expressed globally. Because what I'll say to you is, this I think is your challenging question. This is what I expected, because it's what we discovered in our research this year. Most of the AKN work in that cluster. And most of the work that telecentres do is local. And then you have to think, well, what is the added value? What's the role of the AKN in that context? The community radio doesn't need AKN to carry on doing its work. Yeah? So the question, I think, about the content strategy in AKN is, if a lot of you work locally, what is the added value to you of the AKN? Is it because you'll get a better flow of content from outside, but then you want to use your own content? Do you identify content that is potentially useful outside? If you do identify, how do you identify it? Because that's, I think, our question. What kind of content travels? One of our biggest learnings from OKN was, well, I'll tell you in a moment, not very much.
Peter, may I ask?
Yes.
Yeah, for the cases of those telecentres or national networks with websites, that they put information, local information, to the website so that the global could learn from what the telecentres or other activities are doing, what this because of those kind of activities as well. Put our information on the website so that the global or other people in the world could see what we are doing at our communities.
Yeah, I think there are two key issues in content production. There are those who are locally produced and locally used. That's the bigger part of this group. And also there are another part that's taking the global content to local use. That's the key issue we are facing in Rwanda. We don't have even the local initiative creating content. We only try to bring things from web, from internet, bring down. And then
so you've got the two very interesting examples to think about. And I'd say the thing to explore then, what is the work, what's the capacity necessary to do that? What are the resources necessary to do that? Yeah? If you get material in a local language, who translates it? Who pays for the translation? Where do you put it up? How do you market it? How do you find the $500 per or $5 per? Yeah, there's a lot of questions about what you do with content. If your target is, that's what I want to do. I want to take my local content and publicise it globally, or the opposite. So that's what I want you to think about. What is your purpose? So the big question that Aida asked this morning, what's the added value of AKN? If AKN wasn't here tomorrow, what difference would it make to your lives? Yeah? And in 2 years' time, the same question. If you're just doing community radio for locally, it doesn't actually make a big difference. Yeah? But if you are trying to connect more widely, so that's the conversation we have to have, and that's why you're thinking of the content strategy. Because it's very different. You're taking local to global and global to local, etc. Yeah?
But is in asking this question and is in developing the content strategy that one can really pin down the value added of AKN as it is. Because if you are all doing a function of taking global content and localizing it, then maybe this is something that AKN can do, and it frees you up to do your work because you know you will get that.
I would like to share one experience. As for Nakaseki, we are trying to integrate like the ICT and the radio component, whereby we are downloading like videos from YouTube. Then try to localize the content because most of the content is in the language which is not common to utilized in our community. So what we do, we try to translate the content and then use the radio to reach the community. But however, we also download the same videos, package them the way they are, and then make a video show to like once in a week. So community members come on the telecenter and then view what others are doing without even changing even a single word. So from such experience, they go back, they open up, it opens up their mind to see what others are doing on Cassava. Like of recently, we got videos on Farah Network, and we downloaded them. Actually, we downloaded only those enterprises that are relevant to our community needs, and then they are finding them useful. So we can integrate so many like tools to use to see that at least we reach our community. So we cannot much depend on the local content alone, but of course we can get some useful information on the global level.
Great.
But also we need to understand what means local. Is it in a local village?
Yes.
Or is it at national level?
The local.
So it's another critical issue.
Yeah.
Is it local in Nakaseke or local at national level? I think we need to.
But if you go back to the definition, the definition covers that. Some content has meaning nationally.
Yes.
Football. The Scottish rugby team matters to me, and it matters to all other Scottish people. That's a national piece of content. What happens to the football team? What happens to a small Scottish football team called Hearts of Midlothian, based in Perth, is only relevant to people who lived and grew up in Perth, in central Scotland. In the same way, a particular farming piece of information is relevant to that community with that crop and this soil and these people and this structure of business.
Yeah, like some global information is not relevant to our local community. Like STIA is producing radio packs, and we receive on a monthly basis. But you'll find that out of the 5 scripts on the radio pack, you have just only one program to use.
Yeah.
So it depends on which.
But this is why it's important to map, because when you map, then you can determine what is common and what is common and relevant to you. And then that in itself has its own determination as to what maybe the common activity is what AKN does on behalf of all of you. And then what is local that you do. I mean, for instance,